The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Carter. I'm meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and kicking off things for the state weather briefing for Monday, November 17th. So really the big story for today is going to be the fire danger. We've seen it in recent weeks as it is fall fire season. The good news is today is the last day, at least for a short stretch, certainly still in that time frame where it is ripe for fire conditions, but things gradually improve starting tomorrow, and then we actually have some rain chances on the horizon. So we do have an increased fire danger statement in effect for most of the Commonwealth. That's until 5 o'clock today. And before I actually get to that, I did want to just briefly start with the satellite image here to show you nice clear skies, but sunshine. We've had such dry weather, and it's going to continue at least for a few more days. Now, I was looking at this little area that few frames. At first, I thought that potentially could have been some smoke from one of the fires, but when we're getting few more frames into the picture and see that there's a little bit more movement to it, that's just a patch of cloud cover that is moving through. So luckily, none of the fires big enough to see from satellite, at least here in Virginia. But also leaning on the Department of Forestry's dashboard to just kind of get a sense of where the fires are. You can see that there are a few active fires that are not contained right now. And this other part of the dashboard shows the numbers and kind of breaks things down. So there are currently 64 active wildfires in the Commonwealth with 681 acres burned. And most of them are contained or controlled, but of course, a lot of them are still burning. So with these fire weather conditions, it's going to be very easy for these fires to spread just due to the lack of rainfall, the very dry fuels on the ground, the fuels being really anything that can burn, all of the dry twigs and sticks and leaves and everything like that is just so incredibly dry. It's like a tinderbox out there. And then pair that with some gusty winds, we get one cigarette butt thrown out the window and things could really escalate pretty quickly. So watch out for those gusty winds. Still not quite as gusty as yesterday, so that's good news, but the increased fire danger is going to be the top headline for today. And rain is likely late tomorrow night, really overnight into early Wednesday morning. And we'll see the rainfall map here in just a second, but rainfall amounts increase from south to north. So anything north of 64 is going to get more rainfall. And then up to northern Virginia, we'll see up to an inch. But there's a chance for more widespread rainfall to arrive later this week. And that's really kind of the eyes are going to be on Saturday for that widespread potential. So visually taking a look at where the increased fire danger is, as I mentioned, almost the entire state, just excluding far southwest Virginia because the humidities out there are just above the criteria for at least that increased fire danger. But, fire could certainly start and spread easily in that area as well. It's that fuel moisture that is really, really low as 7% in parts of the state. And this timing goes until about 5 p.m. Really, it's because the winds drop off around that time. It's still going to be very dry out there, and the fuel moisture is still going to be low. It's just that those winds finally drop off. In terms of our relative humidity overnight, things do improve quite a bit as well. So we'll get a little bit more humidity. And then tomorrow also pretty dry, but we won't see those winds. And the relative humidities are more in the 30 to 40% range. So that is good as we have a front approaching the area and eventually some rainfall in the forecast for the overnight hours. Maximum wind gusts, as I mentioned, not quite as strong as yesterday, but they are still pretty windy, especially in northern Virginia, the eastern shore, and portions of the I-81 corridor. Particularly, you can see Highland County definitely on the outer fringes of some pretty gusty winds out that way. So something to keep in mind for those areas that are a lot stronger with winds. And tomorrow you could see things are generally out of the south, so southerly winds drawing in a little bit milder air, but also those winds dropping down pretty significantly. So that'll be good news for fire danger for us tomorrow, only about 5 to 15 mile per hour winds. And then finally, some good news. We do have a few minor rain chances this week. So as I mentioned, tomorrow night, overnight into early Wednesday, we have the chance of a few pretty light showers, and then a better chance come Saturday. So there's also some sprinkled chances Thursday and Friday, not really looking at accumulating rainfall of much, we're not talking about too much measurable rainfall, but Saturday, I know that a lot could change, but some models are kind of pointing in the direction of, not a strong system, not anything crazy, but a widespread rainfall that we desperately need here in Virginia. So looking at our rainfall amounts today through early Thursday. Again, today we know we don't have any rainfall, and we have the increased chance later in the afternoon and evening continuing overnight. Now, most of us are looking at anywhere from about 1/10 of an inch up to 1/4 of an inch if you are south of I-64. And that's kind of generally-ish the cutoff of where some I don't want to say heavier, it's not going to be heavy rain, but more rain, 1/4 up to 1/2 an inch north of 64. And then our far northern Virginia counties have the chance of seeing up to an inch. So woohoo, we desperately need that rainfall to help us out. The 7-day forecast doesn't look too crazy, but it does account for the Thursday night into Friday chance, and then the Saturday chance as well. Now, you see a whole lot more rain in Kentucky and Tennessee. Hopefully that does spread here into Virginia, but right now we're looking at upwards of 1 to 1.5 inches in the far western part of the state in the 7-day forecast. And just to kind of give you a sense of how dry things are, I don't typically pull the soil moisture map out unless it's, either swung in one direction or the other. Late in the summer and into early fall, well, I should say late summer, we had some very, very, wet soil conditions because we did have a lot of rainfall, but it swung totally in the opposite direction. And especially the eastern shore and portions of the I-81 corridor have really seen conditions drying out. And southeast Virginia and far western Virginia are kind of in the middle. They've seen some rainfall in recent weeks, but largely a good part of the state has seen some very dry soil conditions. And this is up to the first meter of soil. So it's really not just that top soil. It's starting to, the dry conditions seep a little bit further in. And this could continue our drought and start to affect crops more widespread than we're already seeing some impacts there. Temperatures are going to remain mild for, I would say, Wednesday through next week. We're kind of in a swing of some milder air, and tonight is probably our last cold night, at least for a pretty decent stretch. So we'll get back to some hard freeze conditions. I will say that growing season is over, so you won't see any more frost advisories, freeze warnings, anything like that. But we'll continue to obviously see those conditions. We just won't be issuing products until spring of 2026 for that. But you'll see some overnight lows in the 40s for the weekend and even beyond. And then good news for our probability of precip, we see some pretty high numbers Tuesday and Wednesday, and then kind of tapering off as we get into the later part of the week. But several rain chances, definitely a good thing. Going to skip right by this because we are very near the end of hurricane season and don't have anything on the horizon for the next 7 days. And then we decided to start adding space weather into our briefings as well. I know that at least a small number of folks do kind of tend to keep an eye on this just due to communications and satellite and that kind of thing. And especially with last week's really pretty strong geomagnetic storm, we could have seen some large impacts. So kind of just keeping tabs on things here. Today, it's just in the minor status, so not expecting impacts to power grids or anything like that. And you can kind of see that at least the short-term forecast over the next 3 days, this shows you the probability of a minor storm, moderate, and extreme. And the numbers that you see here are for the next 3 days. So this minor storm 40 is today's probability, tomorrow's, and then the next day's probability. So very low chance of seeing a moderate or even strong geomagnetic storm. That's good news for our communications. And then looking to be pretty warm leading up to Thanksgiving. So we're going to keep with the warm weather, and hopefully we will see some rainfall chances because we are at least in that near normal to slightly above normal precipitation outlook. So other than that, it's really just very, very dry, and we have the fire danger today and looking ahead to some accumulating rainfall over the next week. Fingers crossed. Pending any questions, that is all I have for you. We will have another email briefing sent out on Thursday. No live briefing on Thursday, but we will be sending out the link to this recorded presentation immediately following this, pending any questions. Thanks, everyone.